gonna open up that ground switch. You can see the ground switch, it's bonded right to the ground mat, so while I'm holding on to this handle with my rubber gloves, if there was a failure and this becomes energized, rather than my body taking the brunt of the fault, it is gonna go through that bond as well. Alright guys, so we're at our 347 kV switchyard right now, and I thought I was doing some pretty routine switching. I just had a call to come to the switchyard, but it is something a little bit different today, so we might be able to capture a few things that are new that I've never showed in videos before. When I called for the instruct, I have switch number. The switch number is SG 3013. So the 3013, the fact that it's a 30 to start indicates that it's on the 347 kV system for us. We're gonna open the switch, check open, lock, and remove some more commit tags. Also in the switch number it says SG. S for switch, G for ground, so it's a ground switch. I'm not sure. Well, then again, like I said, I come back from vacation. Last video there. So this switching must have went on when I was gone. But we're gonna take a drive around the switchyard and see if we can't find that switch number first. Alright, so it's not often where I'm in the distribution side that we get into switching on the 347 kV system. This is the 347 kV yard behind me. So I'm not familiar with the switch locations at all here, or where it's an SG and it says to open. Basically, I'm looking for a ground switch that's closed in on one of the disconnects. So this would be a disconnect here, but there's no ground switches on that. The breaker here, breaker disconnect. You can hear the arcing that these ones are still energized. Basically, I'm just taking a quick walk around the yard. All the switches are numbered very, very specifically, so if there happens to be another ground switch closed, we're definitely going to be verifying our switch numbers. Everything sounds like it's energized here. You probably can't hear it. It's not a real humid day. Could be on the other end of the yard. I do have a map I have access to on my computer where I can bring up all the switching devices in this yard, but it would take me just as long to dig that out as it would just to walk the yard. I think I can see it here now. I can see the switch open. You can see those three blades with the balls on the top that are straight up and down, so that disconnect is open, and the ground switches are actually painted red on this guy. Alright, this is our guy. It's important when we do our switching, especially on this larger equipment. See that disconnect blade? It's got to be just a fraction of a degree past 90 in case there's a failure so it doesn't fall down into closed position. This is our grounding bar right here. So that's all electrically connected to ground, all three of those, so it's grounding out this high line right here. I'm not sure what the boys are doing on it, but at their actual work location they will have grounds and bonds as well. Alright, so this is our disconnect wheel for ground switch. And that's what we're looking for right there. There's our tags. The boys tagged that, and the wheel's locked in position. So we'll go get our rubber gloves, all of our PPE, and we're gonna open up that ground switch. You can see the ground switch, it's bonded right to the ground mat. So while I'm holding onto this handle with my rubber gloves, if there was a failure and this becomes energized, rather than my body taking the brunt of the fault, it is gonna go through that bond as well. Everything in our terminals that's not energized, essentially, is bonded together. So we're just gonna grab my truck, bring it on over. Another important step, I memorized the switch number as we were heading over to that switch. However, before we actually operate it, check those numbers again, especially when you're in a big switch yard like this. If you're told to open switch 385, you go and find switch 385. Then before opening it, double check your paperwork, double check it wasn't 358, maybe you're having an off day. You always want to double check, triple check this stuff. It's very important that you do not open the wrong switch. Okay, so we got the truck over here. We just verified our switching again, which is to open, check open, and lock SG3013. So there's our ID number, SG3013. Open is in that direction. All right, so all three of those ground switches are now fully open, fully horizontal there. So we checked open all three phases, and we've locked our handle in the open position. Alright, so our next instruct is to check open some air breakers, SA3-4 and SA3-6. 345 kV, so that's a 345 kV air breaker. You can see this one's open, it's indicated in the sight glass there. But we've got to make sure we're in the right spot here first. Alright, so SA3-6, my instruct is to check open all three phases. That one is open. This guy is open. And this guy is open. Now that's just open internally inside that air breaker. So we've got to check open SA3-4 as well, and we're gonna drive there. Alright, so we've got our SA3-4 open as well. Now let's go couple that disconnect switch. Alright, so we're back to that same disconnect switch. Okay, so this one here, it's got a D, 3013-01D. That D is for disconnect. So that's our disconnect blade way up there. 3013-01D. Now we have to couple it. It's got very specific instructions for coupling the motor, which this is going to remotely spin this wheel for me this time and close that disconnect switch. Alright, we got to check our workman tags again. So a lot of switches we have are slightly different when it comes to coupling and decoupling the motor. So we're lucky enough we have the instructions on every switch. So to couple the switch, after work permit, leave hand wheel locked and remove tag. Okay, so that's our hand wheel We removed our tag, so we'll lock that guy back up. That wheel must stay in put while the internal gears spin on that part there. Move the selector hander to auto position, lock and remove tags. So we got the tags off this guy already. Auto. Might have to wiggle the handle a bit to get that to lock into place. Alright, so we've got our switch back in the coupled position. We just had to wiggle that handle a little bit in order to get that selector to slide into place. Following our coupling instructions, switch number 301301D for disconnect. All three of them are in the open position. We've got our tag. So we're going to report back to our power system operator and we'll see if they are closing that switch in today or not. 10-4, that's correct. Yep, standing clear. Alright, so right after I got that shot of the switch automatically closing, I had no more space left on my camera whatsoever. So got that cleaned up here now. The one last check we had to do once the switch was closed was we had to call our power system operator and confirm that all three switches had in fact closed, and then the dispatcher closed back in one of those air breakers to pick up the load. And actually they transferred it off of another feed back onto that 3013 line. So that's pretty much all we got for today, guys. Did a little bit of switching in the 345 kV yard. Not something that I do personally very often. We have another department that usually looks after that stuff. However, it's something that all of our linemen at this particular company are trained to do and can do at any time. So I was glad to be able to show you guys around there a little bit. As usual, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.